Since pain is the motivating factor, the next question is, since human life contains nothing but pain coming towards us from left, from right, from up, from down, what sort of pain is it best to have in your life? Do you want to have the pain of Snoop Dogg, or do you want to have the pain of Malcolm X? If Snoop Dogg inspires you, you will knock on the door of someone who has weed. If Malcolm X is the cause of your pain, you will knock on the door of someone who will give you understanding, examination, reflection, social awareness, self-awareness. As we keep knocking on the wrong doors, and every door that opens, it has contents that create desires, temptations, pursuits, ambitions, envies, jealousies. And you certainly don't want to be like Ray and I, at the age of 60 or 70 or 80, coming to realize, I have lived 80 years and I have knocked on all the wrong doors. And every door that opened, the host was this profoundly attractive young thing that spoke so nicely. And I went in and I laid with all the things that lay in this room. Only 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks or years come to realize they were wrong for me. But when you decide to leave, you don't leave cleanly. You have the memories, you have the experiences, the traumas, the feelings, the emotions. They will haunt you. You went out with a guy or a gal thinking that you're in love. 2 weeks later, you realize they're abusive. Oh, but you love them. Though intellectually you know you should go leave this relationship, emotionally you're stuck. Your knowledge will never overcome how you feel about something, especially if those feelings are intense. You may want to overcome envy intellectually, but once you're in its grips, impossible to overcome it. After 5, 6 years, eventually you understand that you need to leave, and you summon up the will. You're seasoned enough to leave the relationship. But you leave the relationship haunted now by the past. 5 years gone to waste. This man or this woman spoke this way to you, behaved this way towards you. How the hell do you get rid of that? Physically, you're removed, but mentally, you're still in the relationship. Wrong doors. So remember, when you read, knock and the door shall be opened unto you, the intention is the following. Find a Jesus Christ. Find a Socrates. Find a Malcolm X. Find someone who's profoundly wise. Knock on their door. And whatever questions you may have, they will shape those questions in a way that you will enjoy. You may say, for example, my dilemma is I suffered a trauma some years ago. How do I overcome it? You know what most of us in this class do with traumas, right? We push them under the rug. They are difficult to see. What you see creates feelings that are difficult to feel. Once you feel, you are pushed to go back in history, and that's painful. Yeah, Kyle, and then.
Going back to the whole thing where we avoid very difficult. Can you talk a little bit about like the tendency for society to sanitize political figures?
To sanitize?
Yeah, because no, we never really learned that in class, like that Martin Luther King was a social Because like we hear the "I have a dream" speech all the time, but I don't recall a single time in class where another important speech that he gave was the three evils of the U.S., which was the one everyone knows about. The first one would be racism, but the two and three were capitalism and militarism. I don't see anyone trying to talk about that, at least in an academic setting.
Number one, Martin Luther King was wrong. So let me tell you why. And this is not just about Martin Luther. It's about Jesus Christ, about Socrates, about all these figures who come up with all these lofty ideas. Imagine you come to this class, you raise your hand, and you assume that you know a few things. And then I respond to your comments, and I demolish you, and I embarrass you. You become a third world country. I become the superpower. So you know what you do? You get in your car and you go to the library in Berkeley, 25 stories. And you start with the first floor. You read all the books on the shelves. Then you go to the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And when you have a huge arsenal, after 25 years, you walk to Laney College and you sit in Amir Sabzavari's class. And then you raise your hand and you ask the same question. And I respond in my same pathetic way. But this time, you have an arsenal. You spend 25 years building up your military system by reading books, storing information, knowing exactly like a great chess game, when to move your pieces, what pieces you want to move. And then instead of me checkmating you, you checkmate. All of us in this class demand power to survive life. Why are you jealous? You don't want another human being eyeing your companion. So what do? You frighten your companion. You beat up the guy who looks at your companion. We are all in the business of amassing power. That's the only way we can survive. What do you have in your life? You have a car, you have an apartment, you have a job. You will do what you can to protect them. And should your boss looks at you and says, I'm just going to fire you because he doesn't like you, you will sue him. Every person, every country, every culture will do what it can to have a great amount of power so it can stay on the top. That's our business in life. Number two, racism. You know, when you go to the Middle East, such as Saudi Arabia, you just see Arabs. You see some tourists, some Americans, some Filipinos. But every tribe stays with its own circle. Arabs don't mingle with Americans. Americans don't mingle with Arabs. They come from two different cultures. All of a sudden, imagine someone in the Arab world comes up and says, why can't the white man and the black man and the brown man come together and live in peace? You can do that if you're Malcolm X and you go to the temple in Saudi Arabia and you see everybody praying. But belief systems, cultural systems, you're telling me you want to create a system where all people from all different backgrounds can come together, break bread together harmoniously? You really think we are that mature and that evolved? We are part of nature. I've never seen lions hanging out with giraffes. I've never seen lions hanging out with tigers. I hope there is a way one day that the black, the white, the red, the yellow, the brown can sit together harmoniously. All of us desire those things. You know, we created a spoken language, words, so that instead of me putting my fist in your face, they can sit, have a cup of coffee, and have a conversation. Do you know what happened when we had World War I and World War II? everything collapsed. Do you know what happened to the age of reason, the promises made by factories, industrial revolution? Hunger didn't go away. It went up. Poverty was not eradicated. It became more. There was less homelessness around the 18th century than there is now. Ideas give a lot of promises. They really, really do. But just because you have a lofty idea, it doesn't mean it can be applied practically. It takes time. And I don't know what the ingredients are. If that's a little difficult to grasp, consider it this way. If there is any single one of you in this class who don't like a parent figure, you don't like your father, you don't like your mother, you don't like your brother, and you haven't spoken to them for 5, 6 years or 5, 6 months, pick up your goddamn cell phone, give them a call, go have coffee with them, deal with all the emotions that come up, deal with all the feelings that come up, deal with the history. And I assure you, if the history is intense enough in a negative way, you will do whatever you can to run the hell away from that environment. Yeah.
Context with how you respond to
Sure.
my question. So you said that you've never seen a lion yell with a giraffe or a lion yell. But you see that happening in captivity. Wouldn't you say that the way that our world is framed is starting to put ourselves in captivity?
What do you mean?
The way that our world is framed with poverty and racism, but at the same time, with the internet and how people are so called connected, but at the same time disconnected. Wouldn't that in a way also kind of put us in, say, a zoo, like some type of holding pattern, that we are then in each other's environments or cultures, therefore we can start hanging out.
We can, you said? So there was a question that was asked some days ago about cultural appropriation. That's basically what you're saying. That all of us can sit together and take the good stuff that all of us have and sit together, eat together harmoniously. Live together.
That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that we can be in each other's presence without killing each other.
That's very true. I agree with you. Listen, I have seen lions just sitting back and enjoying the show of zebras walking around. And they won't make a single move. You know why? Because the lion is full. He's not hungry. He's tired. You and I can go together outside, have a cup of coffee, as long as I don't ask you difficult questions. If our relationship remains very superficial, oh yeah, we can even get married. You know, imagine you're 20, I'm 60. Imagine both of us are single. Just imagine that for a moment. Let us never ask what age is and what it does. Let us never ask what it means to be 60 and what it means to be 20. Let us never ask those difficult questions. We can get married. But you see, the problem with life is that we can't get married. Tomorrow you're going to say, Amir, let's go on a trip. I say, my back. Then you're going to say, how could I have been so stupid? I should have asked. I should have thought. I should have become more observant, more aware of what age does to the human body and the human psyche. And now you're stuck with 25 kids. What are you going to do? Is that too many or too little for you? All right, let's do 20. I'm feeling generous. We'll do 20. What are you going to do? The point I'm trying to make, you're absolutely right by saying that all of us can live together harmoniously. It's true. You know, one of the reasons that, for example, all of us in this class can sit together and talk about these difficult things, because first, I like to crack jokes. I like to be funny sometimes, not because things are funny, but because it removes the heaviness of ideas. You know, I say Martin Luther King Jr. was wrong and all of you laugh. And it's funny. Not because there is something humorous about it, but there is something absurd about the idea that Why is it that countries desire to spend all this money on their military? I mean, imagine if North Korea didn't have a nuclear power, the US would probably attack it. Why do you need power? You need power because you need to protect what little you got. And the truth is, societies, cultures, countries force other countries to spend most of their wealth on military, because if they don't, they'll get demolished. India gets billions of dollars every single year by the US government, but it's conditional. No abortions. If you remove all the abortion clinics, we'll continue to funnel money to you guys. Now, why would America desire Indians not to have its people abort unwanted pregnancies? As the population grows, poverty increases. As you become more poor, you become dependent on countries who can provide goods for you. You know, it's just slavery in a different way. You want to have a good life? Don't ask difficult questions. You want to continue with your relationship? Be okay with how stupid your boyfriend is or your girlfriend is. Don't ask them difficult questions, and you can live happily ever after. One of the reasons why nothing survives these days is because, first, we find ourselves in the cradle of boredom far too fast. You go to your companion and you say, "Oh, honey, you're unhappy. What's the reason? Can I do anything?" A husband or a wife would never ask those questions from a companion for thousands of years. All of a sudden, everybody's asking. Now, what are you supposed to say? "I'm unhappy." Well, what can I do? "Well, I'm not really quite sure why I'm unhappy. I have a house, I have a car, I have a job, I got kids, got great parents, great siblings. I'm just unhappy." How's that going to make your relationship function any better? It's not. Maybe it's the function of privilege. I don't know. You know, because when you're poor, your desires are very limited. If you haven't had food, you say, whatever comes my way, it'll be okay. But when you're full and you have lots of money, how about In-N-Out? Nah. How about PF Chang? Nah. How about Thai food? Nah. Well, what the hell do you want? I'm really not sure. Well, now you got to sit on the sofa for the next 5 hours trying to figure out what to eat. And then you know what's going to happen in the end. You're going to look at it, I always knew you'll never make me happy. It started with In-N-Out. Now you want to break up the relationship. When you say personality disorder, what exactly do you mean?
What do I mean?
Yeah.
Borderline personality.
Yeah, what does that mean?
It's a diagnosable mental illness where you experience extreme highs and lows emotionally.
Well, I have that all the time. I've had that since I was 2.
Okay. I don't personally have one of my friends.
You know, I have a... Here's the thing that, you know, the pharmaceutical companies are always in the business of spitting out these names. Sleep leg syndrome, dry eye syndrome, where when they create such names, they also create remedies. And so when you go to the doctor and you say, you know, my eyes, say, oh, you got dry eye syndrome. Go down to the pharmacy, first floor. It's only going to cost you about $750. Just put this drop in your eye. And all of a sudden you realize most of our diseases are really manufactured by certain branches of society that look at us as experiments, as guinea pigs. The idea of HDHD, that people have attention deficits, for example. What is it called? HDHD, right? That's right. Now, look, it has to do with people who can't focus on one single thing for too long. It's like they need to have a remote TV channel in their hand, and they just need to flip through things. And then your father comes in and says, God damn it, just stick with one show for an hour. If not, at least 5 minutes. Now, the social aspect of it is, consider how difficult it is to make money these days and to pay rent and utilities and food. Consider that people, are, for the most part, are just unhappy. And they will do whatever to taste a modicum of happiness and stability. They get married. They don't really know what it is. They just get married nevertheless because it's something that we do. We've been doing for thousands of years. After a while, you say, well, let's have a family. Now you have children. Not because you're great parents. Not because you have lots of money. Not because you got lots of time. Now the kids come up. You come home, you're exhausted. You don't have a support system. And you realize, well, these days, kids, do you have children? Do you know this thing called Kumon? It's this learning center for kids. So now they're going online. You don't need to go to the center to have paper assignments. Now everything is online. So from a very, very young age, you expose kids to technology. Now life and technology are two completely different things. Technology is fast. Life is very slow. Technology gratifies you quickly. Life gratifies you very, very slowly. You have to wait for 2 weeks to get your paycheck so you can go buy a bike. You have to learn how to be patient. Technology, you don't like this game? Well, shit, install another video game. 2 seconds. So once your real parents have been technology, you walk into life. You come into this class. And what is this class? It's about sitting quietly, listening. But it's not something you've done, ever. Your parents never talk to you, and if they have, 5 minutes. Once a day. And you come to this class thinking it's another video game. It's going to be exciting, inspiring all the time. And then you get bored. Then you get frustrated. Then you keep looking at the clock. You say, God damn it, this is going very, very slow. Then you become angry. Then you raise your hand and you say, I signed up for a philosophy class. I thought it's exciting. Because, I downloaded Socrates on my cell phone, where Socrates, finds himself in Agora, the market. And when someone doesn't listen to him, he just smacks them. And it's really fun. Socrates smacks people intellectually. And there's people, on the video game, they sit and cry. And I enjoy it. He says, as a philosophy teacher, why do you just talk? There is no conversation. It's a monologue. And you're monotone. And you're boring. And you don't smack anyone down. So, now I got to compete with the video game. So the point I'm trying to make is, I'm not quite sure at what stage in our life something is manufactured, whereas something is organic. Sometimes when you are born, there are flaws in your brain chemistry, and you don't need therapy. You don't need self-help books. You don't need philosophy classes. You need to go to Kaiser. They need to do an MRI, do a couple of tests, and give you the proper medication. Some people experience events that are horrifying. Talk is good, reading is good, but it takes a long time for you to find some balance in your life and in your head. Get some antidepressants. Nothing wrong with that. But to mistake brain chemistry that's organic with something that's not organic and manufactured, these are two different things. So when you talk about personality disorder, what are you talking about? What sort of a person are we talking about? What are the life stories? How do they interpret experiences? Is it organic? Is it manufactured? You won't find places as depressing as, say, Mexico, India, the Middle East. People are poor, man. There are no mass shootings. You know, you walk by people, they don't insult you, they don't offend you, they don't rob you, they don't mug you. And you need to ask why. What is it about our culture that creates all these horrific things? I'm not saying it doesn't happen ever, but not like the US, man. Yeah, and then yeah. I think when you talk about aggression, you need to understand how aggression comes about. You know, it's not like, you know, some kids, the moment they come out of their mother's womb, they just scream. You know, they are what we call, their temperament is like fire. They have no stability. They have a good amount of spice inside them. Some kids come out, they're like water. They're very calm and quiet. Okay? Now, when you talk about aggression, if, for example, you're talking about an 18-year-old who becomes aggressive, okay, or has some aggressive tendencies, you know, do like FBI and nice detectives, do some background check. You want to go out in your next relationship? Instead of asking ridiculous, stupid questions, so how's your mom? How's your dad? How much time did you spend with them? Because remember, these formative years from 0 to about 6, man, they are like the foundation of your life. If there are cracks in that foundation, they are painful. How do we express pain? Do you sit and have a nice conversation? Do you go to the gym and punch a bag? Or do you just walk around the lake and punch someone? Aggression has a history. You know, it's not like all of a sudden I say something to you and you just come out and punch me. You need to have buttons inside you. And sometimes I push those buttons with a good amount of awareness, and sometimes I'm completely unaware. I say something, all of a sudden you go nuts. And you think that I am the culprit. I'm not. So there is cultural aggression, there is social aggression, and there is individual personal aggression. India, it has cultural aggression. The Middle East, cultural aggression. Why? Because individuals are not allowed to go around and do crummy things to other people. I'm not saying it never happens, because it does. But as a whole, there are certain lines that people just don't cross. Okay? That's not the case here in America. People cross all sorts of lines all the time. It has to do with privilege, entitlement, individualism, capitalism, isolation, alienation. As Marx would say, you become an alienated self. Every branch of you gets sucked by some force out there. And you go home, at the end of the day, you have nothing to yourself. You have no choice but to be angry, man. The first thing you need to understand, all of you in this class, life is an angry business. It really, really is. None of us know where the hell we're doing, where we're going, what we want. We're just winging it. And you get things wrong all the time. And you have no choice but to reflect and be angry for all the times you have wasted. The only problem, I think, right now in the American culture, there is nothing to protect people from the anger that lives inside them. There are no cultural etiquettes. There are no social etiquettes. You look at the sports, they're violent. You look at the video games, they're violent. You look at the movies, they're violent. You know, you look at just facial expression around the lake, people are just angry. Who can survive such a space? No one can. Yeah. Sorry, I know your hand was up. Yeah.
Going back to the arsenal topic.
The what?
The thing you brought up earlier with the arsenal of knowledge.
Right.
Tying it back to something I brought up earlier in this class about structuralism. Isn't this class like structured in a way that even if someone has an arsenal, they can't really use it? Like, I have an arsenal, but with the way with the way the class is built. I can't really use it, especially with I get some of the logic behind the whole no statements, only questions, but that is an inherent handicap to like someone being able to use their own knowledge.
I don't disagree with you. There is this hierarchy that exists at all stages in society and life. Sometimes you happen to be on the top, sometimes you happen to be at the bottom, sometimes in the middle. But none of us in this class have choices in that. If, for example, you have a good amount of ideas in your head and you want to express them, I have a suggestion for you. Go get your master's degree or PhD. Find yourself in a classroom. Just suspend, pause your desire to talk for about 5 years. Just focus on your studies. By the time you're 35, 36, 40, you'll find yourself at a classroom. Find yourself a good school, a big school, a 4-year school. And then you know what you can do? Take 5 classes, teach. Sign up to teach 5 classes every semester. That's about 5 hours or 15 hours a week. And if you happen to, for example, teach at UC Berkeley, you have about 100 students each. Stand on the stage and talk endlessly for about 15, 16 hours a day. You can do that. But that's too much of a price for you. If you really think your ideas are valuable, make the sacrifice. Go to school. All of us in this class have some really, really good stuff. You need some, retuning and refinement and being seasoned a little bit. But none of us are there yet. But should you desire to enlighten others, have power. That power will give you a stage. That stage will give you the authority to talk, and people will listen. Oh, and people know we have great antennas on the inside, to whom we should listen and to whom we should just give them our ears without listening to them. It's good to see all of you. I hope that none of the things I said depressed any of you or offended any of you. Just food for thought. See you Thursday.